Aston Martin is not done yet. New upgrades incoming. During winter testing, Aston Martin surprised everyone with how fast it was. This was proven at the Bahrain Grand Prix when Alonso finished third in his first race for the Silverstone-based team. The first race of the season at Sakhir showed that Aston, which finished 7th in the 2022 Constructors Championship, has closed the gap between the middle of the pack and the frontrunners. It can now compete with Mercedes for third place. But more and more good news seems to be coming for the British team, as they are not done yet. New upgrades are on the horizon, now with the Jeddah GP coming up this weekend. What are Aston Martin's new upgrades, and what does that mean for the biggest surprise team this year? Stick around to find out. What made it stand out was that Aston Martin's third-place finish came out of nowhere for a team that hadn't been getting much attention before the winter.
And has that inside line going into turn 1, Verstappen's ahead of Carlos Sainz.
Yet, in just a few months since it came in 7th place in the Constructors Championship last year, it has made a big jump and now makes what is probably the second fastest race car. In F1, teams usually don't move up so quickly. They know it can be hard work to just move up 1 or 2 spots per year. Because of this, Aston Martin's big step forward has also caught the eye of many of its competitors. Even though they have to face the fact that someone else did a better job, it has given them a good look at what it takes to be successful in F1. There are several main things that made Aston Martin so good. One of them were the rules and the cost cap. A cost cap was put in place in Formula 1 for 2 different reasons. One was to protect teams from going out of business due to spending that was out of control. The other was to help teams get closer together on the grid. On the competitive side, the budget limit has done its job by making the top teams cut back on the number of people they hire and the amount of money they can spend on making their cars better.
Closing in on Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton leading the race. Verstappen goes down the inside.
This is especially good news for midfield teams with a lot of money, like Aston Martin. Since they are close to the cost cap limit, they haven't had to give up much, and they may even be able to change their teams to better fit the new rules. Technical director Dan Fallow says that Aston Martin has been one of those teams in the sweet spot area. Another reason is the infrastructure. Teams can all spend the same amount of money, but their facilities are not all the same. One reason why Red Bull, Ferrari and Mercedes stayed so far ahead of the competition last year was that they had better facilities and systems in place for years. These improvements will continue to pay off for a while. Teams like McLaren, which have older wind tunnels and simulators, had to realize that they can't compete in the long run without new infrastructure.
Sebastian Vettel takes the lead of the race. Hamilton is second. Here goes Max Verstappen down the inside.
Aston Martin came to the same conclusion, which is why its new factory, new simulator and wind tunnel are all being finished up right now. But it has also done what it could in the short term to fix problems. It has spent a lot of money on high-tech equipment at its Silverstone base, and making the deal to use the Mercedes wind tunnel many years ago was crucial to its progress. After all, if a facility is good enough for a team that has won more than one championship, it must be good. If not the biggest factor, then certainly the second biggest one was hiring the right staff. Since Aston Martin owner Lawrence Stroll took over the team, one thing has been clear: he has worked hard to find the best of everything. Aside from putting a lot of money into the facilities, he has also worked hard to make sure the right people are on the team to help it move forward. So, Stroll has done everything he can to get the best people on board, even if it meant spending a lot of money and making other teams mad. At his launch, he said that passion comes from being excited, and when he cares a lot about something, he wins. The end result is that they got some big names, like TD Fallows from Red Bull, Deputy Technical Director Eric Blandon from Mercedes, and Luca Furbato, who used to work for McLaren. Toro Rosso, Manor and Sauber. All of them have a great understanding of how much work and focus it takes to be successful at the top of F1. Even if the team has the right tools and the right people, it won't matter if they have the wrong attitude.
Warning for track limit.
Talking of keeping it on the road and trying to get back in.
And it's clear that Aston Martin is ready to shake things up a bit and do things its own way if it wants to win. It has never been a team that stuck to the rules, whether it was using customer parts like the Mercedes gearbox and rear suspension it buys right now, or going hard after ideas that someone else had first. Some of Aston Martin's competitors have been stuck on the idea that the only way to win is to design and build every part yourself. Aston Martin, on the other hand, is not so sure about that. Aside from that, there should also be willingness to consider the possibility that other teams have better ideas than you. When Aston Martin started 2022 with the wrong idea for a car, it didn't take long for the company to change its mind and switch to the Red Bull solution at the Spanish Grand Prix.
and Verstappen pulls out from behind the Ferrari and gets the move done into the braking zone.
And since it seems pretty clear in F1 that Red Bull's downwash design may be the best way to win in the ground effect era, Aston Martin has decided to go with it and add its own style to it instead of thinking it could come up with something better from scratch. Earlier this year at the team's launch, Fallow said that one of tech genius Adrian Newey's great strengths in F1 was that he didn't close himself off to other people's ideas. This was a telling thing to say. One thing that can't be ignored is how much Fernando Alonso has helped the team since he joined. It was interesting to hear the new head of the Williams team, James Vowles, say that Alonso's influence was the first reason for the jump Aston Martin made in 2023. When it comes to getting the most out of signing one of the best drivers on the grid, there are two key things that teams need to keep in mind. First, a two-time world champion should be able to gain a few tenths of a second just by pushing the car to its limit.
Hamilton tries to go round the outside, Verstappen just runs him out of space, but then there's a drift from the Red Bull.
Then there's the belief and motivation that the organization itself can get from having someone like Alonso on board. Staff will be more willing to go the extra mile and dig a little bit deeper if they know that bigger and better rewards are underway. It's clear that Aston Martin hasn't made the big jump it has because of just one thing. Instead, a number of easy-to-understand factors have come together to help it move quickly toward the front of the grid. And as Alonso pointed out after Bahrain, the team hasn't done anything that rival teams couldn't have done on their own. While he was curious to see if Aston's headline-grabbing form carries over to Saudi Arabia and Australia, he said he was confident that his new team could keep up development throughout the year because it started with what he called a basic car for Bahrain.
Down the inside for the lead of the race. Yes, he can. Vettel didn't really defend that one.
Sure, we need to wait for a Jeddah, Australia, very different tracks, so I'm curious to see if we can keep this form in different circuits, Alonso said. But on the other hand, I think the car that we have now is just a very basic car that we launched, and we start the season with this completely new concept. I think there is a lot more to come in terms of development with this project, so I'm optimistic for that. Aston also made progress through 2022, but because it started on the back foot, its development curve stayed under the radar. In the end, it fell just short of overtaking Alfa Romeo in the constructors' standings. If Aston Martin can continue the progress that they have made over the past 12 months, perhaps an unexpected title race will be the storyline of F1 in 2023.
And Fernando Alonso making his way then past the...
Do you think Aston Martin can compete for the title this year? We all laughed when Alonso said at the AMR23 launch that he wants to compete for the title, but that wasn't for another several years. What can they do this season? It's going to be exciting. Nevertheless, let us know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below, and thank you for watching.